Hello, I'm the Pink Phantom, and this is my podcast. Join me as I delve into the world of games and gaming, and especially old school RPGs. Together, let's voyage into the astral realm and check out my Phantom Thoughts. In this episode, I have a call from Jason from the Nerds RPG Variety Cast. I continue on the world building using Foundations, a solo world building game by Tom Anna, and we have another party versus party battle in Tales of the Dragon Slayers. So sit back and enjoy.
Hey, this is Jason. Just catching up on your podcast on episode 116, the numbers game. Unlike Riley, I actually like that we have a range of numbers, but without explicit dice to roll, because that gives unsaid permission to use the kind of dice you want to use. Obviously, you don't have to use the the kind of dice they tell you to use to get a range. But if it's printed that it's 2d6, then players are going to expect you to roll 2d6. Where if it's not printed 2d6, then it leaves it open for the DM to roll what they want to roll. And different die, obviously, different die combos will give you different curves and, probabilities. So I like that it's open and that they don't give you numbers myself. But I just figured I'd weigh in on that. Keep up the great work. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for that call, Jason. That raises an interesting question. I wonder if there's ever been a game where the ability to not necessarily manipulate the numbers, but the odds of what the numbers will be is part of the process, where the choices the players make through their characters, for example, could change a roll from being 1d20, ignore a roll of 1, to a 2d10 result, which would tend to be where the 1d20 you got an even chance of all the numbers high and low versus the 2d10 where the results are going to tend to cluster in the middle, which might be more advantageous for the player characters. Or maybe there's a circumstance where you're rolling a chance of having 10 to 40 of something, and you would normally roll, say, 10d4s, but you could, for example, adopt the advantage-disadvantage mechanic made famous by 5th edition, where instead maybe you roll 12d4s and you take the highest, or 12d4s and you take the lowest, or 15. And that would greatly increase your odds of getting numbers on the high side or the low side of that curve. But if nothing else, if they don't give you the exact dice, it kind of exercises your mind, and that's something that can be helpful in the game state, in the game space, period, if you're used to kind of exercising your mind on the fly and making decisions. That helps particularly in those OSR-style games where we have rulings over rules. If your mind is used to solving problems and making those kind of decisions on the fly. So again, thank you for the call. If anyone out there is not listening to the Nerds RPG Variety Cast, now in Season 2, you should check it out. A link will be in the show notes. All right, after mistakenly skipping a week, or skipping a podcast, as it were, because I think there were some other weeks that were skipped, period, back through the time, we're back to Foundations, a solo world-building game by Tom Anna. Links in the show notes. And I left off with a couple of prompts that I was going to spend a little more time dealing with, talking about. One of them was the Golden Path. Laden with treasures, merchants travel great distances, create the path of a vast trade route between two civilizations. And I took a path between a couple of established cities, or a couple of established locations, and added a few more cities between them. This path travels west to a river, then down the river, and then further west, skirting some mountains off to the coast. And what I wrote up on this was, if I can find the entry here, the range of the Kapala reaches from the Lau River to the Bay of Kongor. Their westernmost clans range the river, pushing goods upstream and down with their tamed sar beasts. In the plains, caravans moved through the plains between distant cities. To the east, flat-bottom vessels enabled the eastern clans to move a large volume of goods along the shallow waters of the coast. Along these trade routes, vast city-states tap into underground cisterns to sustain themselves, each developing its own relationship to the lands and the peoples around them. And then the other prompt was about magic. One of the options was creating a subculture of people in whom magic is potent or powerful. In the far north, along the northern edge of the vast Tagai forest, the shamanic culture of the Anhui holds sway. Their ancestry spawns from the enchanted Lake Taui, which each generation grants their people the gift, power over what they can see and touch. The center of their people is the city with no name. Abandoned by their ancestors with the coming of the glaciers, it survived the ravages of time. Magic preserved it from the onslaught of the ice. They have found knowledge here about the gift, and treasured the wisdom of their forebears, passed on in scroll and carving, glyph and rune, and objects that speak to them directly. They are divided into scholars who seek out the ancient knowledge, preservers who protect the forest and the many enchanted places within, the sustainers who meet their physical needs, and the protectors who keep the wild and unknown at bay. So having filled that in, I'm going to draw another card here. And this card is Muscles and Teeth. In the harsh badlands, only the brutally strong survived. Through generations of strife, some of the first peoples became unrecognizable to their kin, creating species from a harsh region who were marginalized in the rest of the world. And so looking up in the book to see if there is any additional information to this. Like their ancestors, they're initially nomadic, and their diets are based around the animals they hunt. They may be totally isolated from the rest of the world, or they may have some trade connections with the neighboring region. Eventually, they may also join the wider world to forming settled cultures. You may also create a settlement in this region. Choose one: a raiding camp, trading post, or tribal lands, a breeding grounds, hive, or nursery, a religious or ritual site. What happens when the group strays? What conflicts arise? How are they maligned or marginalized, etc.? So looking at my map, the most obvious spot for this is there's a swampy area over on the eastern coast of the continent, a section which kind of juts out to the ocean a little. It's got some lakes around it. It's a swampy area. It borders some mountains on the southern end. It borders a large lake on the upper end. And then just to the west is one of the cities along the trade route that I established from one of the previous cards. And I think what has probably happened here is that in dealing with the dangers of the swamp, they have come to adapt to kind of the area. They become maybe somewhat amphibious, maybe some scaled skin and amphibious nature, adapting to something like a creature similar to an alligator that is dangerous deep in the swamps, skin that's a little harder and harder for creatures' teeth to deal with. Maybe they have sharp teeth now, and they have developed kind of a more guttural way of speaking. They're a little quicker because if you've ever seen any kind of footage of crocodiles along a river, alligators, where they look slow on land, but they move very quickly, particularly in water. And prey dips his head down for a drink of water, and shoo, they're gone. So something like that, where they have quick reflexes and they're always on edge. Always on edge. I'm making notes here. So they're not maybe quite fit for civilized society because they will sense dangers in loud noises, in sudden movements, in things that may just be people dancing, people yelling, people laughing, people having a good time within, say, a city or town environment. And maybe they've established a breeding ground right on the edge of this swamp, at the edge of this large lake that's in the area, and they are known to roam this area. The city or town, maybe it's a frontier fort type of location, similar to what you'd see in the old west of the United States back during the late 1800s. And so it serves as a trading post, but it also serves as protection because of their appearance and their reactions and just their sheer strength and the fact that, being in the swamp, people don't know where they are, how many there are, where they're coming from. It's a way to protect the civilized world, so to speak, from them. And they're viewed with suspicion, although with also opportunity, because while there is danger, there are resources in the swamps from various types of flora and fauna to maybe some mineral deposits to maybe some special waters, because we've already talked about in some previous sessions, in fact, most recently with the wild magic section, about there being enchanted lakes in an area. There could be some enchanted waters within the swamps as well. Creatures that could serve as guard creatures, or for zoos, or perhaps as beasts of burden in an aquatic environment. These are all things that they could provide as well. So they've established themselves there. I'll have to come up with a name. All right, so let's draw another card. Whoa. All right, this one is: an empire emerges. United under a single banner, the citizens of the empire swore allegiance through loyalty or fear. Create an empire that expands across a vast stretch of land and add the diamonds cards to the deck. So this will put all the cards from the deck into the deck. So everything will be in there now. And the way this card is put together, there's a part 2. And if it's similar to other cards of this type, if I look in the book, yes, it's a 2-parter. So this first time is the empire is established, and the second time this card comes up, the empire will be the downfall of the empire, and at that point, the heart cards will also be removed from the deck. So that's both a mechanical effect and an effect on the world itself, and an effect on the process and an effect on the world. So establishing an empire, I think that's a good place to stop. I realize that's just a couple of cards, but I think a lot was done there. I'll shuffle in the diamonds cards. We'll see what they add next turn, if we draw any. And I'm sorry, the clubs cards will we remove, not the hearts cards. Is that what it says in the book? I wonder if the book and the card are different. Now I got to look. Yes, the prompt in the book says remove any remaining hearts cards, but the card says remove clubs cards. And this is a club card, so I think that's actually what it means. It means the club card. So that's interesting. I'll have to might have to send a note to the author of Game Company and see if there's a clarification on that, or check and see if there's a fact to see what that is. So another thing to look at. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Continuing to build this world, and hope to get to more the next time. Thank you for listening. And now, more from my solo AD&D RPG campaign, Tales of the Dragon Slayers. So when last we left the Dragon Slayers, they had run across the evil 3rd level party that they encountered one time before and sent running. So now the party has been exploring for a while in the dungeon, and that raises the question of what has this evil party had the opportunity, with the resources they have and the time they've had, to recover in terms of recovering from combat. Now, because the party has been exploring, looking at the DMG, in order for that the Dragon Slayers have been exploring, that has given the time for the evil party to recover some spells, actually. Because according to the DMG, to recover 1st and 2nd level spells, which is what they expended, what the magic user expended essentially in the first encounter, you need 4 hours rest plus a half hour per spell level. Well, the magic user casts a couple of 1st level spells, so that's a half hour of study. Also, the half-orc cleric would have expended his 2 cure light wound spells once they got back to their lair to recover some hit points, and he would have had time to recover those as well. The cleric also has a scroll with cure critical wounds on it. So first I'm going to see how many hit points the cleric is able to recover using the cure light wounds. And he's going to use 1 Cure Light Wounds on the magic user and 1 on himself. So for the magic user, that's 5 points, which would be get them up to their full of 7. And for themselves, they're going to roll another 5, which would get them up to 6 because they were down to 3. Now with the Cure Critical Wounds, there is, because that spell is beyond them, their normal level, there is a 30% chance of spell failure. So let's see if he fails with the spell, and the spell is just null and void. But it easily rolled 98, easily cast the spell. So that's 3d8 on himself. That's a 3. That's a 7. That's an 8. So that's a total of 18. Plus the 6 that they already had is going to get them up to 24, which is get them to their maximum of 22. So now the cleric will have, after essentially a 4-hour nap and relearning Cure Light Wounds, they'll have 2 Cure Light Wounds spells to use. The magic user will have the Read Magic back, which means it can use that scroll, which has a confusion spell on it and also a banishment spell. Although that last one has a very high chance of failure. The other thing I want to do is I want to see what treasure is in this room, because I rolled monster plus treasure, and if it turns out to be some sort of magical treasure, it would be something that potentially this party could have in use against the Dragon Slayer. So let's see what that roll is. All right, so that's a percentage roll. That's an 89 plus 10% will be 99. So that is a magic item. And then you roll twice with the monster. So, and we've got an 85%, which gets you up 95%, which is 1 piece of jewelry per level. So there will be 3 pieces of jewelry as well. So going to the magic item tables here, we roll a 51. That's a miscellaneous magic. And that's going to be on subtable E6. So scroll down to E6 here. E5, E6. And that's going to be a 08. That is Bokob's Blessed Book. Oh, I know what that is. That is a lightweight book that can hold a lot of spell levels in it. So it's a good traveling book for magic users, so that they can carry their spells with them more easily without as much encumbrance. So that's an interesting item, but not of much use in the battle that is about to commence. So, having essentially re-upped their hit points, we're going to roll initiative. The Dragon Slayers, they rolled a 4. The Evil Party, they rolled a 3. So the Dragon Slayers will get to go first. Gus charges the half-orc fighter cleric and rolls a 5. And even with all his bonuses, that's not going to give him a hit against that cleric. All right, so we'll go with Bernie. Bernie will attack. Let's just roll at random for Bernie here. Well, let's see here. Bernie targeted the mage, knowing how dangerous he was with magic missile before, so he'll attack the magic user. So Bernie versus the magic user only needs a 9 to hit. Rolls a 4, but with his bonuses, that's good enough to hit, and that's going to be good enough to kill that magic user. All right. Quinn. Quinn is going to throw his dwarven axe against the fighter. And he rolls a 1, so it just misses. But it does come back to him because that's the nature of that weapon. Harl is going to attack the fighter. He rolls an 11 with his bonus. That's a 15. And that is not good enough. It just clangs off the fighter's armor. Michael is going to attack one of the men-at-arms. We'll say it's the slinger. He rolls a 4. With his bonus, that's an 8. That's not good enough. The slinger dodges out of the way. And then we have Prier is the only one that's left. He is going to charge the fighter with an 8. Even with bonuses, that's not going to be good enough to hit that fighter. So the party, so at this point, it's the evil group's turn. As per usual, when it's the start of their turn and something has happened that could trigger a morale check, I will do a morale check. They did lose the magic user, but because that's not 25% of their group, they had 6 members, 3 men-at-arms, 3 leveled characters, so that is not going to trigger a morale check, so they will take their turn this round for sure. So first, the half-orc engages Sir Gus and rolls a 20. That's a hit. So that is going to be 2 to 8 points of damage plus 1. So 1 and 2 is 3, so that's a total of 4 points of damage on Gus. All right, the fighter will engage with Prier, and a 9 will not be sufficient to hit Prier. The slinger, so the crossbow and short bow are not engaged in melee. They have target available to them in Quinn or Bernie, who are not currently engaged in melee. They cannot harm either one of them. Their armor class is too high, but they don't know that, so they fire away, and they to no effect on one or both of those gentlemen. The evil fighter, will attempt to counterattack against Prier. With a 2, he misses. The slinger will counterattack against Michael. And with a 6, he misses. So we'll go back to the initiative track. The Dragon Slayers roll a 6. The evil party rolls a 5. And so we continue. Sir Gus attacks the half-orc again and rolls a 20. So they're banging away on each other's armor. That'll be a 1d8 plus 7 damage. Rolls a 2 for a total of 9 damage to that half-orc, dropping them down to 13 hit points. Bernie, who is unengaged, goes after the crossbow that shot at him. He rolls a 19. That's a hit. Let's see. That will he will roll 4 damage. Actually, with his bonuses, he takes out that crossbowman. So that's another dead one of those. Quinn, who was also had shots taken at him, engages the short bowman. He rolls an 11 with his bonuses. That will give him a hit. And he will do 2 to 5 plus 3 damage. That's a 1, so that'll be 2 plus 3 is a total of 5 points of damage. So that injures that short bowman, but he's still alive. Michael attacks the slinger again. That's a 7 plus 4 is 11. Just doesn't get through the armor. Just barely doesn't get through the armor. Harl will attack the evil fighter again. A 19, that's good enough to hit. Harl is going to do 1d6 plus 4. Rolls a 5. That's 9 points of damage on that fighter, dropping him down to 4 hit points. Now Prier takes a swing at that same fighter. He rolls a 12 with bonuses. That's 14. That's not good enough. Just clangs off the fighter's shield. Bernie gets 2 attacks this round because of his specialty with the longsword, but that won't kick in until the end of the round. So that's the end of the party's turn. Now we're to the start of the other party's turn, the non-dragon slayers. Keep saying party for both. That gets confusing. They had another party member die. That puts them below 25%. So they're going to have to roll for morale. The leveled characters will be rolling against a 65. The men-at-arms will be rolling against a 50. And there's a plus 20 to the roll because they've lost 2 people. So that's a 45 on the roll. Plus 20 is 65. So the leveled characters, they succeed. The men-at-arms fail by 15. And that means that they're going to fall back fighting. So they'll take a swing, and then they will retreat. But because they're falling back fighting, and the way I do that is, I do that the reverse of, it says that you can move up to 1 inch and still take an attack. They're going to attack. They'll be moving back 1 inch, about 10 feet, so they won't be able to get out of the room. But they won't incur any kind of additional attacks by the party. So the short bow against Quinn, that's a miss, just barely, but it's a miss. And then the slinger, that's a 7. That is a miss. So they both take a swing and back away. So Bernie sees them trying to get out of the room, but he's able to use his additional attack, to move up that 1 inch and attack, say, let's see, who will I roll? Well, we'll roll 50-50 on this die. All right, crossbow. I'm sorry, not crossbow. The crossbow's dead. The slinger. He rolls a 12. 12 is just good enough to hit that slinger. And again, with his damage bonuses, he takes the slinger out. So that's another dead person there. So now we go to the next round. Rolling initiative, the Dragon Slayers roll another 6. The other party rolls a 1. So Gus versus the half-orc, and 11. That's not good enough. We have, let's see, we have Bernie versus, he'll move up and attack the other, the short woman that tried to get away. Let's see, he rolled a 7 with his bonus. That's a 13. That's a hit. So that short bowman is now gone. And the casualties are mounting. Harl and Prier versus the fighter. Harl rolls a 4, misses. Prier rolls a 16. That's still not good enough for him. Quinn and Michael, they will engage. Michael will engage to the fighter to help with Prier. He rolls a 5 and misses. Quinn will engage the half-orc to help out Sir Gus. He rolls a 20, so that's a hit. And let's see, with his bonuses, let's see here. He has a bonus of +3. And he's going to roll 2 to 5 points of damage. He rolls another 1, so that's a 2. +3, it's 5 points of damage. So the half-orc is down to 8 hit points at this point, if you get the point. So now we get to the the half-orc fighter cleric and the lawful evil fighter, they need to make a morale check. Their morale is down to 59. There is, with 4 dead people on their side, there's a plus 40 to this roll. It's a 42 rolled. That's an 82, which will be a difference of 23. 23 is they disengage and retreat. So they essentially use their movement, half their movement, to get away without being attacked, and then move the remainder of their movement. But getting around the characters, that means they will not be able to get out of the room. So we're going to roll initiative again. Dragon Slayers roll a 3. The evil party rolls a 2. So the Dragon Slayers get to go again. And since they all use their charge movements, they can move up, but they can't engage in an attack. So, but I am going to have Quinn throw his thrown weapon at the fighter. He rolls a 3, so he misses. So now these guys haven't suffered any further losses, but I am going to, let's see, should I roll morale for them again? Since they fail morale, they're still engaged. They haven't really been attacked, so yeah, I'm going to roll morale for them again. And this time they roll a 73, plus the 40 is 113, which is going to be a 54 difference, which is surrender. So they surrender to the party. And the combat is over. So at this point, it's late in the day. The party still has that other secret door they need to explore, but it's late in the day. They're tired. They've been in several combats. They're going to call it a day. They bring their other men-at-arms in. They finish cleaning up everything and taking their prisoners with them. And they leave. There is going to have to be one more random encounter as they leave this section of the dungeon. But they roll 4 and they don't encounter anything. So they were hoping to finish off this section, but they got engaged in several combats. And so they ended up not quite finishing it up. There's still a little bit left to explore in this section, upper section of the dungeon, before they can move on to the lower sections and to other things. So that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. I think I probably will, quote unquote, live play the last section of this dungeon if that's the direction this goes the next day. I don't think there's anything. I'll have to check the timetable to see if there's anything else happening in the next day that would interrupt that, but I don't believe so. So until next time, hope to see you then. Well, not see you, but hope you'll be listening. Thank you. The opening theme of this podcast was Strength of the Titans, and the closing music is Late and Out Radio, both from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you have any thoughts or feedback, you can get in touch with me by leaving me a voice message on my Google Voice number, 864-209-1441. That's 864-209-1441. Or through SpeakPipe at www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. That's www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. Or you can send me a message or an audio file on Discord, where I can be found the Pink Phantom, or through email, phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. That's phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. I don't have to play or read your feedback on the podcast if that is not your preference. Just let me know.